Welcome back to another podcast of Off the Woodwork. It is number 17, so just 3 more to go until the end of term after this one. This week, plenty to talk about across all sports. Got a bit of football today. Got some La Liga from Pablo as usual, and then in other sports we've got a bit of cricket, darts, and also some squash as well to talk about towards the end of the programme, and other stories as well to do with sport, but not necessarily the competitive side of it. We'll be talking a bit about coronavirus and that potential impact on sport over the next, weeks, months, years, who knows. So to start with them, on Friday we all had a practice news day, so this is where we have to produce for radio a 30-minute bulletin recorded live by a deadline. So we all came in at 9 o'clock and each were allocated a time to record. Ours was 3:45, I think. So it sounds like quite a long time you've got, but the time certainly goes quickly, and if you're needing to get an interview like we all did, we were all sports presenters, it can get difficult. In terms of how mine went, the process of getting a story and an interview was difficult, but we got it done in the end, and I pre-recorded one, so my bit was sort of in the system and I didn't have to worry about doing an interview on air, so I was pleased in the end with the output of it, but the process of getting it was difficult, let's say. Kris, how was sports presenter in Group 1?
Sports presenter was, fair to say, interesting. It started off very well. The first 15 minutes of our show looked very professional. It was quite surprising, actually. We had everything done, most of the things done. Our interview was scheduled as well. It wasn't supposed to be pre-recorded. It was supposed to be live on air. But halfway through, we managed to mess up, and it all went pear-shaped, it's fair to say. But good practice for the real one, and we'll see what happens.
And Pablo, how did yours go?
So in my case, I basically arrived around 11:30 because I overslept. I thought the lesson was going to start at 2, right? So then in the end, instead of ending up as a presenter, it was funny because at the beginning I thought, the 3 of us were going to be presenters. But in the end, I ended up as sports editor. It was really good experience getting the stories done. Obviously, the beginning of the program was really good, but then some interviews flopped, and then it was really funny to see yeah. But it was really funny to see the presenters sometimes they just go blanked, and we were like, stop, just go, move on. And then in the end, I thought we got some mistakes, but for the real thing, it will be good.
Yeah, I have to say, I think presenter was quite popular. I mean, we were sports presenters, so our role was a bit different. We had to actually get a story, write it all, and then present it. But the presenters themselves just had the scripts mostly written for them. But I thought that'd be quite difficult because you've got to interview people on air, and the gallery team can leave you in trouble. Yeah. So, much work to be done for our assess day, which is in, I think, approximately 16 days' time. Look forward to that, as usual. But anyway, into today's podcast, starting with the Premier League results over the weekend. I'll start with Norwich, and it was back down to earth, really, after an excellent week. A loss at Sheffield United. No shame, to be fair, in losing to the Blades after the season that they've had, but it was a good chance to close the gap on some of the rivals above us, as they all dropped points, and we've still got a 6-point, but technically 7 points with goal difference deficit to make up, and the games are running out. Billy Sharp's header in the first half, that was enough to condemn the Canaries to another defeat on the road. I'm thankful I haven't been able to watch any league away games this season, because I think we've only scored 6 goals in total on the road, and a couple of those have been penalties, so it's not been very good at all. But still, we've got a couple of home games now to come, so I'll talk a bit more about that towards the end. It's not over yet, but it's certainly getting there. And Tottenham, interesting time to be a Spurs fan, Kris.
As you'll probably know, we got knocked out of the Champions League yesterday to RB Leipzig, but we're going to go back to the Burnley game. We faced Burnley at Turf Moor, informed Burnley, I should say, with outformed Tottenham. The Clarets took a deserved lead when Wood tapped home the rebound after Hugo Lloris spilled Jay Rodriguez's long-range shot. Hugo Lloris not having the best of times after coming back from his elbow injury. We looked sort of completely out of sorts by the half-time, but then Lucas Moura and Giovanni Lo Celso came on for the second half and they sort of livened up the squad. And it was actually Lo Celso through ball that forced a rash challenge on Eric Lamela in the box by Ben Mee, and then Dele Alli obviously scoring the penalty for his 50th Premier League goal. Towards the end of the game, Lo Celso almost scored again with a 20-yard curling ball before Lloris denied Mati Vidra from almost point-blank range. Now, the result meant that Tottenham went 5 games without a win in all competition. Now this has obviously increased to 6 after last night's defeat to RB Leipzig in the Champions League.
Yes, in terms of our other results in the Prem, Liverpool back to winning ways. A win for them over Bournemouth. Man United did the double over Man City, 2-0 win. And Chelsea a comfortable 4-0 win at home to Everton. And there was supposed to be another game in the Premier League to go tonight between Arsenal and Manchester City, but that has been called off amid safety fears, we believe. So that one will have to be played at some other point. And just an interesting point here, we've seen a lot about games potentially being played behind closed doors. Potentially towards the end of the season. So is this realistically going to happen, you think? Do you think they're going to have no choice?
I think so, but the thing is, this is all precautions. This isn't. This is in order to prevent the spread of the virus, and as we've seen in Italy with Inter Milan versus Juventus, or we've seen in the Champions League last night in the game, Atalanta versus Valencia. There's no fans. The Premier League thinking of introducing the ban for over 70-year-olds to go to Premier League games.
So Roy Hodgson's in trouble.
Roy Hodgson's in trouble.
Also, La Liga has put for the next 2 match days as well. Close behind.
Yeah, other leagues I've heard as well from friends. The games have been completely called off. Any sort of major parties have also been called off. Yeah. But this is all as a precaution. Now, the closest to home we got was obviously the news this morning. The Man City versus Arsenal got called off. But this is because Arsenal, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, played against Olympiacos in the Europa League, which they lost, obviously. And they met Olympiacos' owner. And the news literally a few days ago came out that he might have contracted the coronavirus with Arsenal players meeting him after the game. Right now. So now they're in quarantine, obviously. But again, it's in order to make sure that they don't have it and they don't spread it to either the fans or Man City players, because then it's just going to be like a domino effect and everyone will get infected. So it's a good precaution. But obviously for fans, this has huge implications.
It's really worrying times, to be honest, because I think talk about it across other sports too, and obviously we've got the Cheltenham Festival taking place, haven't we, at the moment?
500,000 people turning up in one place.
So fingers crossed that it doesn't affect the sporting world too much, but of course safety is the priority in most of these cases. The Championship, Leeds, what a run they've been on. I think 5 wins in a row without conceding a goal as well, and they're back to the top of the league. Everybody thought they were falling apart, and of course there's still time for that to happen. But I think this is Leeds' year. They're clearly they're clearly in the top 2 best sides in that division. So it would take a very strong performance from a team below them like Brentford or Fulham. For them to be displaced from where they are right now. But I think Leeds are heading back to the Premier League. Yeah,
as you've said, we thought that they might bottle it again, as they usually tend to. But the last 5 games, they've won all of them, including a 4-0 win against Hull as well, and 1-0 win against Bristol. Well, in the table, they're sitting in first with 71 points, just a point above West Brom, who have not been doing that well recently, with the recent 3 games, 2 losses and a draw. But we'll see how it's going to play out until the rest of the season. It'll be interesting, but realistically, in my opinion, it will be between those 2 teams who will battle out for the place in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's just this time of the season, because Norwich were in the same position last year. We were top of the league, although we were a bit further clear than those 2 teams were right now. But it's just the pressure. The pressure is so sort of big, and it's kind of the mental strength of the players has to be so strong, and not just to win, to bounce back from a poor run of form, because professional sport exactly. being so brutal, a couple of bad results, and the situation can change completely.
Yeah, the championship is completely brutal. I mean, they've played 37 games already, and they've got 9 to go. And in the next 9 games, everything can change with the gaps that are between teams at the moment. So very unfair, very brutal. But we'll see what happens.
Perfect. Moving on to a bit of La Liga, Pablo.
Yes.
What have you got for us?
It's also a lot of pressure for Barcelona and Real Madrid right now. Obviously, less games than in the championship, but Barcelona again, top of the league, first place with 58 points, 2 points ahead of Real Madrid, who lost to Real Betis in Benito Villamarin. Basically, they fell behind to Sydney, a stunning strike in the top corner. That was a poorly defense from Sergio Ramos and Rafael Varane. Then Karim Benzema leveled the score via penalty. But then in the end, Benzema passed the ball to Sergio Ramos. Guardado stole it, passed it to former Barcelona star Christian Tello, who scored the very much winner. And obviously Barcelona won on Saturday previously against Real Sociedad 1-0. They could have won 2-0, but Ansu Fati was disallowed because of VAR. And Messi has scored 19 goals already this season. You know, he's our main man always going to be, but what's going to happen with Barcelona when Messi's gone?
Yes, it's hard to know really, because you take someone of his quality out of any team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the others are going to have to step up, but hopefully playing alongside someone as good as Messi, you will step up. So,
But as we've seen Ronaldo
That's
as well,
what
it's
I
going
hope
to be
so, yeah.
it's going to be very similar thing that happened to Ronaldo in Real Madrid as
Yeah.
well. Ronaldo left and Madrid sort of flopped, as Pablo would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm just happy-
I would like to say flop, yeah.
I'm just happy we're alive in an era where you've got players like Messi and Ronaldo playing.
Two of them playing at the same time. It's unbelievable.
Okay, more European stuff. The Champions League. Sorry again, Kris. How much of last night did you watch before you turned off the TV?
Do you know what? When
Or was it after 5 minutes?
I was
No.
games. They were actually really entertaining.
we started off quite well actually. They seemed to have had some belief instilled into them by Jose Mourinho, but that only lasted for about 10 minutes before Sabitzer scored Leipzig's first goal. Then after the second one went in, probably all hope was lost by then. It did feel a bit like the Ajax game last year, but obviously it would have been very difficult to repeat that without the players that we had available last year. Obviously the main sort of the main issue for Tottenham were the injuries, which we have a huge list, with Steven Bergwijn being the latest addition to that long list of players. Then Leipzig going 3-0 up and 4-0 aggregate and Tottenham out of the Champions League. Mind you, we knew that we weren't going to go far this year in the Champions League because of different reasons. But I believe that for us now, this season is almost over, and now just focus on the Premier League, getting to the top 4, trying to get into the top 4, and secure a Champions League place next year.
And Atalanta and Valencia, an entertaining game.
Oh yeah, that was actually really entertaining because it was behind closed doors, right? So I saw how they pre-recorded some noises like from the fans just to make it more nicer, I guess. But that didn't stop Atalanta and Elisic from scoring 4 beautiful goals and completely destroying Valencia's hopes of getting to the next round.
The Six Nations returned this weekend for England, Wales, Scotland and France. Ireland against Italy was postponed due to the coronavirus. England and Wales, an entertaining game at Twickenham. England were in control for the most part of it, although the scoreline suggests that it was a bit closer. England 33, Wales 30. But Wales did have a couple of tries in the last 5 minutes, which got them closer to England. But England were, as I said, always in control, and they're back at the top of the table after France's defeat to Scotland.
Difficult game for France, obviously, away to Scotland. But for me, had they won that game, they would have they would have been looking at winning the whole tournament. Now the things get a bit more complicated. As you said, England going back on top. 13 points. Now it's just the difference in points that separates both sides.
I have to say, I think they ditched handshakes, didn't they?
They did.
Yet they're kind of grabbing hold of each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a protocol.
I don't get that. It was the same in the Champions League, Atalanta versus Valencia. You haven't mentioned that. The players didn't know what to do after the Champions League anthem finished, because do we shake hands, do we not? Which, as you said, especially with rugby, doesn't make any sense, because how close they get, they tackle each other, they basically hug each other.
Yeah.
So it's not going to make any difference, I don't think.
That's the duo, is it? The fist bumps.
Yeah, the fist bump. Yeah.
Moving on to a bit of cricket and the Women's 2020 World Cup. Australia, they were the victors in that, thrashing India in the final, which was held on International Women's Day. There was controversy, though, in the semi-finals, as England were eliminated despite the fact they did not even play. There was no reserve day in place for the semi-final, and weather washed out the game between England and India, so India went through as they had finished top of their group. Very interesting. Pretty gutting for the England women, to be honest. But in a way, it's not really fair to say this, but in the England Men's World Cup, England won on boundaries scored. And in the Women's 2020 World Cup, the England women have been eliminated because of a silly rule, like there being no reserve day in place. So, it's very unfair that they've been eliminated because of that. But it was agreed at the start of the tournament that there would be no reserve day. And the weather, unfortunately, has been very unkind to England. But yes, Australia absolutely thrashed New Zealand, so I'm not sure if England would have got a result in that game anyway. But a shame for them, as they got to the semi-finals, and you'd be excited, wouldn't you? Think you could win, and then you sort of get it taken away from you by something that's out of your control.
Yeah, that's very unfair. But then again, there's nothing they can do about it. I'm sure that there's feelings of disappointment and sort of possibly even anger or rage. But again, nothing. Move on. Exactly.
I mean, the rule was their weather won this time, I guess.
Moving over to darts, another sport where some players have ditched handshakes. They have in my local league, actually, although I played last night and I shook hands twice with my opponent, so
no.
Don't touch me. It was night 5 of the Premier League darts, which took place in Exeter, and Luke Humphreys became the first challenger or contender to win in the Premier League after holding his nerve to beat two-time world champion Gary Anderson. Michael Smith, fresh from his 9-darter in Dublin last week, moved to level at the top of the table after beating world number 1 Michael van Gerwen. Current world champion Peter Wright beat Nathan Aspinall. Glenn Durrant moved top after a win against Gerwyn Price, while Rob Cross and Daryl Gurney played out a draw. And in the UK Open over the last couple of days, or Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we saw 2 9-dart finishes in Minehead, but Michael van Gerwen, he took the crown. Although it was his first major win of the year, he's reminded everyone that he's still as fearsome as he's always been. And £100,000 in prize money he takes home as well. I think £450,000 total prize money for the tournament, which for darts
that's
is
a lot of money.
Superb. The tournament began with 160 players. And was down to just 32, I think, by the end of day 1. Johnny Clayton's match with Chris Dobey, probably the highlight of the tournament for me. The semi-finals, the Welshman Gerwyn Price eased through over Johnny Clayton 11-4, while Van Gerwen showed no mercy in dispatching Daryl Gurney, thrashing him 11-3. In the final, it was Price against Van Gerwen, and it has to say, Gerwyn Price blew a 5-1 lead, and he missed several darts at double, which gifted MVG a way back into the match. And in ruthless fashion, MVG turned the game on its head, and it was 10-8 in front, and then in the end came out with an 11-9 victory to win the competition. So after a lot of questions about MVG's form, as he hasn't won anything yet this year, because they have sort of Players' Championships and tour tournaments every weekend, but he then goes and wins one of the biggest TV tournaments like the UK Open. So fair play to Michael, and I'm sure he's just reminded everyone just how good he is. Finally, a bit of squash, a sport that I haven't played quite as much in recent weeks, but have been watching quite a lot of. It's been on at Windy City Open in Chicago, so it's been some late nights watching that, and we've currently got the Canary Wharf Classic taking place just down the road for us. I am going tonight actually to watch the quarterfinals, so I'm looking forward to that. and I'll just be able to talk about it for a bit now. The lineup for tonight is Diego Elias taking on Tarek Momin, Mohamed El Shabaghi taking on Saurav Ghasal, Greg Loben taking on Marwan El Shabaghi, Mohamed's brother, and Faris Dasuki playing Ali Farag. Lots of Egyptians in that quarterfinal lineup, 5 of the 8 to be exact. It's their sport, really. In the Windy City Open itself, Ali Farag and Noor El Shabini were victorious in Chicago for the men's and the women's competitions. Farag beat Kiwi Paul Cole in what was a breathtaking final. He was 2-0 up, Cole, but Farag fought back tremendously to win 3-2. Shabini beat fellow Egyptian Raneem El Walili in the women's final, and that was also 3-2. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the squash tonight. Finishing off with our preview of the next week's action in sport. Premier League wise, there was, as we said, meant to be a game tonight between Arsenal and Manchester City, but that's not taking place because of safety fears over the coronavirus. Saturday, a big game for Norwich at home to Southampton, certainly one that we see as winnable, although Ralph Hasenhutl's side certainly have picked up since we last played them. I remember there was a stat, they were about 2 points ahead of us when we played them at St Mary's, and now they're way clear of us. I think they're sort of 12 or so points in front, but certainly one that we'd see as a chance to get 3 points on the board and just keep the season going for one more week. And a big game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, very, very big game for Jose Mourinho on Sunday.
Huge game for Jose Mourinho, huge game for the top 4 battle. Tottenham will face Manchester United at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday at 4:30. Obviously, as I mentioned, huge implications for Mourinho with him being the former manager of Manchester United, and especially with us losing to United away this season as well. Monday Night Football also looking very interesting with the Merseyside derby at 8 o'clock between Everton and Liverpool.
Very good, and we've got some more La Liga action this week.
Yeah, La Liga, obviously Real Madrid is playing against Eibar, and Barcelona against Mallorca. They should be easy games for both teams, and Barcelona should go on top on this one. And obviously they're going to be played closed doors because amid of coronavirus.
And Six Nations, 2 of the matches are postponed, France and Ireland and Italy against England, both postponed due to safety fears, so it's just Wales against Scotland that is left, and I'm not sure what's, I assume those matches will probably end up being played behind closed doors as well, but hopefully they'll hurry up because France and England are both in great positions, aren't they?
Although they did say that the games could be postponed for as long as the 31st of October, with Super Saturday being played out on the 31st.
Okay, even potentially even worse then. Cricket-wise, we've got some international cricket taking place this week. India taking on South Africa in a one-day international series. That gets underway on Thursday. Sri Lanka against England. There's a warm-up game for that. I think 4:30 in the morning it starts tomorrow, so it won't be getting up for that one. The Pakistan Super League, the 2020 competition, that's taking place throughout the week. And Australia against New Zealand, one-day international series getting underway on Friday morning. Darts, we've got night 6 of the Premier League in Liverpool, and finally squash, the Canary Wharf Classic, taking place today, finishing on Friday with the final, and then the Black Ball Women's Squash Open, that one continuing today and finishing on Saturday. So a lot of sport on, despite all the fears, despite all the panic, so that's good to see. I'm sure we'll have plenty of updates on some of those developing stories with regards to when matches are going to be played and if they're going to be played. So that's it for number 17. What do we got next for us? Well, we got our TV practice news day on Friday. We are yet to receive our roles yet, but I think, I've applied for sports producer. What have you two gone for?
Same, sports producer, sports presenter, kind of the same thing, really.
Yeah, I've applied for sports producer and sports presenter as well. We'll see what we'll get.
I don't know, we feel comfortable.
I think
with
we're lucky because not many people apply for it, do they?
Yeah.
So I think usually, because there's only 2 groups this time, so one of us might end up doing something different, but I'm sure that'll be alright. Anything else on the agenda for you two? How's shorthand going, Chris?
Shorthand.
Nearly at 100 now.
Nearly at 100, past 90 last week, attempting 100 this week. It's tough. It's very tough, and it's going to take quite a while to reach 100, but we're on the way.
Very good. Yes, hope you enjoyed this latest podcast. We'll be back again next week, Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, with so much going on for us at the moment. Some of our podcast dates might be a bit staggered, so we'll let you know when that next one is coming out. But yes, thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you for listening.